Welcome to part 2. In this part of the course, I'll be joined by my friend Mike Cogbill in the second story as we cover the basic tools and installation techniques you'll need to do a first-class retrofit installation. Now, Mike has over 10 years of experience in the custom installation industry, and he's an old hand at retrofit.
Whoa, what's this old stuff? I got to tell you though, I'm really excited about doing this part because I'm going to show some my favorite tools and installation techniques in a really cool mock-up house that we've got here. Now, the goal in any retrofit installation is to make it look like it was done during the initial construction. And that's with the wires behind the walls.
Right. And we'll assume that you'll never use the techniques of stapling wire around the baseboards or door frames, or worse, stapling it along the outside of the house.
Unfortunately, I got to tell you, I still see a lot of that out there, particularly with the telephone and cable companies. You know, getting the wires where they belong requires knowing installation techniques and tools that you just simply don't learn in new construction.
Right, and it takes patience. Now, there'll be times when you can't see where your tools are going or what they're bumping up against, and it can just drive you nuts. So let's start with tools. Now, one of our favorite subjects.
Yes.
And in any retrofit installation, not a place to scrimp, since good tools will pay for themselves many times over. Now, besides, doing retrofit is an excellent excuse to buy more tools.
Yeah.
And I always say, you can never have enough tools.
Agreed, agreed. In any retrofit installation, you'll need the same tools you'd normally use in new construction.
Right.
But in addition, you'll need tools specifically designed to solve problems of working behind finished walls and ceilings.
The tools we need to cover fall into 4 categories. Tools for making holes to run wires. Tools for pulling or pushing wire. Tools for locating wire or wire fishing tools. And tools to make openings in walls.
Well, let's start with tools to make holes, drills and bits.
Let's do it. It's important to be familiar with the many types of drill bits for retrofit because of the specialized and often difficult hole drilling requirements. Now, retrofit usually requires drilling in a long distance from the drill and through several boards at a time. Let's review the basic types you'll be using. Now, this bell hanger style bit, it's basically a standard twist drill and a long shaft, can be used both in metal and wood. The auger style bit, used for larger holes in wood, and the spear style bit, for drilling in an angle to the surface. Now, we'll also be talking about drill extensions and guides and some specialty drills.
The primary factor in selection of the bit to use is, of course, the size of the hole you need to make.
Right.
And, you know, this is usually determined by the size of the cable or, you know, multiple cables that you might need to run. Up to about 1/2 inch, you can use the twist drill or the spear drill, and these are the ones you want to use for that. Over that, we need to get into some other drills that we'll talk about later. The twist drill is easy to use and self-cleaning. Can be used on metal as well as wood, and if you hit a nail, it'll do just fine. Very little damage to it. Bell-style hanger on shafts up to about 2 feet are excellent for making holes in window and door frames up to an attic for security sensor wiring. They come in both a tapered and non-tapered shafts. The taper on this bit allows the bit to be removed from the hole easily, while this non-tapered bit is good to keep the drill straight through multiple holes, making it easy to feed the wire back up.
They're also available on 4 and 6 foot flexible shafts. Now, these are used to allow the bit to be fed up or down a wall cavity for drilling through a top or bottom plate.
These spear bits are great for drilling at an angle. They're also available in sizes from 1/4 inch to up to 1/2 inch on either rigid or flexible shafts. The really good thing about a spear bit is it'll start right in a new hole without walking. When it is removed, the 2 holes line up, making it easy to find both the holes to insert a pull rod or a wire. If a twist bit is used, it has a tendency to deflect and shift the second hole off center. This can make it difficult to find the hole after the drill bit is extracted. However, the tendency for the bell hanger bits to walk can be used to your advantage when you want to move or jockey the bit into position.
Now for holes about 1/2 to 1 inch, an auger style or similar bit can be used. Now these bits also come in 4 and 6 foot shafts for feeding up and down wall cavities. Now because they're typically used on extensions such as this, you can't apply a lot of force to the shaft or it'll just bend. So you need to have the bit help make the hole. So the bit needs a threaded self-starting tip to grab the wood so the bit can chip away the hole. Auger bits are intended for slow speed use on wood. Now they don't drill through nails worth a squat, so you have to be careful where you drill. Now if you feel it hit a nail, and this takes a little practice, back out and move the bit.
Now this drill ease bit is really good for making holes like a 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch and 3/8.
Right.
It's made up of 3 components. There is the bit, which screws into the rigid or flexible shaft, and there's an attachable feed screw. The larger the hole, the longer it takes. And when the feed screw goes through, it requires some pushing to get the last 1/8 inch of wood.
To drill up through a top plate from an outlet location, you're going to need about 8 feet of drill shaft. And to drill down through a bottom plate through a typical speaker location, you'll need about the same length. Now, since drill shafts are typically 3, 4, and 6 feet in length, you'll usually need some kind of an extension to get the length you need. Now, the extensions also come in 4 and 6 foot lengths. A good combination is a 4-foot drill shaft and a 4-foot extension. And the extensions screw onto the shaft with these set screws. Now this 8-foot length is very good for not only going through the top plate, but it'll go right into the wall cavity of the floor above. And you can choose to put your drill either on before or after you get the drill into the wall. Now feeding the drill up the wall is very easy since these things are so flexible. And it's quite easy to feed them up all the way until you feel the thing hit the top plate. You can also use these shaft guides. So once the shaft is in, the guide easily slips in the hole. And with this, even without looking, even though you can see it here, but being able to see it in real life, you can position the drill where you want, left or right, or the back of the wall, the front of the wall, wherever you want, and then bullseye, make your hole.
One more interesting note, many of the bell hanger and auger bits are available with a small hole drilled through the bit near the tip. Now this hole can be used to attach a pull wire. This saves having to fish a pull or push rod up the hole that's been drilled. I mean, just use the bit as a pull rod.
The next group of tools we're going to talk about is for pushing and pulling wire, either in holes already drilled or across attics or other crawl spaces where you can't see or reach.
You know, Grayson, this is one area where I think every experienced retrofit installer has their own favorite tools, from the coat hanger to fishing poles, lots of different things.
Right.
We'll try to show you some of the most popular tools used for this task, and of course encourage you to experiment to find your own favorites.
Right. Now these tools tend to fall into 4 general categories. Tools to retrieve wire out of a wall, to push or pull wire through walls, to push or pull wires across an attic or other open space, and pull cords and sleeves. Now many of the demos we'll be showing you use our mock-up set, which is equipped with plexiglass sheets where you'd normally expect to see sheetrock. This allows you to see what's going on in the wall, and Mike and I kind of pretend we can't see. We've even pre-drilled some access holes to prevent that hassle.
Well, let's start with some of the retriever tools, Grayson.
Okay.
Retriever tools are used to grab a wire or a pull chain out of a wall cavity. This extendable one is nice since you can clip it to your pocket, but it has one little problem. It doesn't bend easily. And as you can see in the demonstration, if I'm trying to grab this wire, it can make it a bit difficult. A better tool is this spring steel wire that we have here with hooks on both ends. They come in 18-inch or 36-inch lengths. Now they're perfect for grabbing a cable. The hooks on each end align with each other so that I can tell which way the hook is turning. And I can grab this wire very easily like that. Of course, there is the old standby that I was telling you earlier with the coat hanger or another stiff kind of wire. The problem with a coat hanger is that when you put it in the wall, it easily twists, and of course it will remain deformed and won't line up like those double hooks.
Now, there are many situations where an extreme flexibility is needed, and that's where the installer's best friend, the ball chain, comes to the rescue. Now, this wet noodle, as it's called, is great for dropping down through multiple holes in the top plates of walls, uninsulated walls, and so forth. Now, the tool is designed to simply drop down through the cavity, and it's very flexible and will just pile up at the bottom of the cavity. There's even a little hook at the top to prevent it from going through the hole. Now, the chain is retrieved with this very flexible shaft, which has a magnet on the end. All you have to do is just bend this shaft to the shape you need, stick it through the access hole, and then flick it around in the cavity. All that's required is that the magnet touch the chain, and it can easily retrieve it. Pulling it out of the hole is even easier if you use the little retriever that Mike showed you earlier.
Traditional fish tapes have been the primary tool for pulling wire in wall and ceiling cavities or through conduit or other enclosures. That's why they always have a hook on the end so that you can attach it to a wire or pull cord.
Right.
Now, they come in a wide variety of sizes in metal or fiberglass, and you can get them in all kinds of lengths from like 10 feet all the way up to 200 feet. This one is a spring steel fish tape, and it's available in different diameters depending on the flex required that you might need. They come in rolls for easy feeding and retrieval. See that? We also have here the little small spring steel wire tape. And you know, this is great when you need extra flexibility. You know, you're up in a tight space like coiling a coil up something on the attic insulation so that you can easily retrieve it with a J-hook.
Right. Now, as Mike said, metal fish tapes come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. You can even get tapes like this, which are under carpet tapes. It's flat, and it allows you to push the tape under the carpet, between the carpet and the pad. Attach a cable or pull wire at the other end and pull it back. A nice gadget.
This fiberglass tape comes coiled in a tube and is capable of making, 90-degree bends very easily without deforming. It also has a bull nose on the end of it that you can attach a pull cord or a cable if you wanted to.
Sure.
Now, this package, very similar to the metal tape, which also has a bull nose, with one difference: very flexible, making it easy, when we get into places where a lot of bends are required.
Sure. And this bright color is a great help to the installer working in the dark, both figuratively and literally. Now, these metal tapes are nearly invisible in dark attic spaces or crawl spaces.
A relatively new alternative to fish tapes are, of course, these fiberglass rods. Now, they come in different lengths, up to 6 feet, and they have these little threaded couplings that allow us to screw them together so we can make much longer lengths.
Now, because they are stiff and relatively lightweight, they can be much easier to control. In many cases, they can be used to locate and fish a hole a lot easier than a fish tape.
You can get an assortment of tips for the ends, including the standard bull nose for attaching wire or pull cords, just like so. I can get it on. There we go. And we have tips for pushing or grabbing wire, such as the Z-tip and the J-tip, so named for their shape. Now, the J-tip is used to grab a cable or fish tape and pull it across. And the Z-tip, you notice, has 2 grooves that will allow it to pull a cord and not let go. The decreasing angle there grabs the wire. One can use it to grab a cable or pull cord, or just, push a cord across crawl space to another installer. The tips can also be used on other styles of rods as well. And with a short ball chain attached to the end, a magnetic retriever can be used to grab the chain where the rod itself would be difficult at best to get out of the hole.
Another interesting little attachment is this egg beater end. This little guy lets you walk the fiberglass rod over the top of insulation and ductwork and joists without getting hung up, just by giving it little twists and flips as you go along. It's a great little attachment.
Still, another useful attachment is this ceramic magnet. It's strong enough to be used to retrieve a wad of ball and chain, like so, and carry it long distances, such as an area like a crawl space.
Now, you can also use the magnet to retrieve tools or drill bits that have been accidentally dropped into wall cavities or crawl spaces. Pretty handy. Now, for pushing wires for short distances, it's also good to have a short, flexible fiberglass rod specifically designed for a pushing wire. Now, this one has bull noses at both ends. You simply pass the wire through and bend it over. That'll allow you to push the wire. And earlier, we drilled a pair of holes down for like a window magnet, and we selected the front corner of the space, so it's easy to find with the push rod. We just keep the push rod right in that corner, and it goes right down into the floor below to be retrieved by Mike.
When you need to push or pull cables in open spaces such as attics or crawl spaces, these fiberglass poles are indispensable. Now, they come in a variety of sizes and lengths from about 8 feet to over 20 feet. This grab-it, as it's called, is a very lightweight, telescoping, self-locking pole. And this one, I believe, is about 12 feet, and you get them up to 18 feet. Now, another interesting feature is that it can use the same tips that we used on the fiberglass rods, such as the J-tip I'm showing here. The Z-tip can grab or push a wire or pull cord. The pole is lightweight enough that holding it so you can grab at a cable at considerable distance is easier than it looks.
Now, this gopher pole, as it's called, will extend to 22 feet. Now, this thing is great for really long distances. It uses a set of locking buttons here to hold the sections in place. Now, this thing is great for reaching cables or other things on the other side of the attic or crawl spaces. Now, these poles are also great for stringing lights and Christmas trees and other outside lights.
Exactly.
I keep a couple of these around the house, and they're like real handy for things like getting kites out of trees as well.
Geez, I know exactly what you mean. Let's talk a little bit about some pull cords. Still, the oldest and least expensive wire pulling device is simply a spool of nylon cord. This 3/16 diameter nylon can be easily fed with any of the rods we have seen. Now, another really cool one is this weed whacker cord that we found out makes an excellent pull cord. And guess what? It comes in nice bright colors.
Sure, I like this thing.
But remember, never use a fiberglass fish tape or pull chain to pull wire, since bending around those sharp corners will break them. Always attach a pull cord to a ball chain or small diameter fiberglass fish tape, and then attach the cable to the pull cord.
Right, so keep the pull cord in between.
Exactly.
Right. Now, when pulling large or multiple cables, or cables with connectors attached, the pull sleeve makes an excellent gadget to be used with pull cords. Now, pull sleeves come in a number of different sizes, but this smaller one easily accommodates 2 RG6s and 2 Cat 5s, or can easily go over these large bundle cables. Now, these things are a real pain to attach to pull cords. And to me, using this sleeve is a lot easier and quicker than spending forever wrapping a half a roll of electrical tape around a cable bundle and a pull cord. Now, these things work very easily. You just take them and slip them right over the cable. And they work like one of those Chinese finger puzzles. They easily go on, but they're real hard to get off. That's the key to making them work. Now, for extra security, you can put a cable tie on here, or what I do is just take one little wrap of electrical tape right around there.
That's a great idea.
Now, the end is smooth and easy to get through holes, and the sleeve makes a nice smooth transition so they don't get hung up. But, you want to make sure you don't pull the cables backward too hard, or the cable's liable to come out.
Right. The next category is what we call exploratory tools. Tools to locate openings and spaces so we can find a place to run a wire and to locate wire that we may have already pushed or pulled into the wall. The most common tool we use is the stud sensor. To me, this is a good example of a must-have tool. It's used to locate, the spaces between the studs or joists so we can find a place to cut a hole or run a cable.
Now it works by detecting changes in density. When you first turn it on, it uses the density it finds as a reference. And then any sudden change in density as you move it across the wall indicates something in the wall. The lights indicate the density, the least to the most. Now you can find the location to make an opening or place an outlet by first locating the studs on either side of the space you want to use. Now we can also use it to locate fire stops and cross braces as well. Now this tri-scanner is similar but does some extra things and has extra features for finding metal studs, for finding studs that are a little deeper into the wall. And it also has an AC detector that lights up when there's electrical wiring behind the wall. Now, stud sensors are not foolproof and can easily be misled by things in the wall such as insulation and plumbing. Recalibrate it and at a different location and try moving again to get better readings. Now, always learn the quirks and the peculiarities of the particular sensor you're using, and make several passes over an area to double check what it's telling you. Now, once you've located a place to put your opening, what you want to do is look inside the wall cavity to see what you're dealing with. Now, the old standby is a mirror on the end of a stick or rod. This one is on a extendable shaft, which you can clip in your pocket even. Now, when used with a good flashlight, this thing lets you see up inside wall cavities or ceiling spaces easily. You can twist the mirror around and locate things like wiring and plumbing or other obstructions that may be in the wall, or find your fish tape or wire. Now they're real handy, but this little device called a walleye combines the two into one unit. It has a mirror and a light, battery operated light, and you can just stick this in the opening, and it lets you easily see up the wall, and you can twist this thing around for a 360-degree view, and the light's powerful enough to see completely up the cavity. This thing is definitely on my must-have tool list. Now, to see in real hard-to-reach places, this fiber optic scope is extremely handy. Now, the light, which is turned on by this little button in the handle, travels down the shaft in a set of fibers, which you can see there. And the image is transmitted back up a different set of fibers for viewing with this little adjustable lens. Now, you can see from 1 inch to up to 2 feet inside a wall, and it's great for seeing through very small little exploratory holes. This shaft will pass through a half-inch diameter hole. Let me show you an example. We've drilled a hole at the base of this wall cavity someplace. We think it's in one of the 2 corners, but I can't see in here because of the insulation. I can take this shaft and treat it almost like a fish tape, feeding it down into the corners, and turn the light on and take a look. It's not in that corner. And I just twist the shaft like I need to get into the corner space. And there it is. The hole is right near the edge, right up near the front. This thing is perfect for working in those hard to get at spots. Now, I'm in the unfinished basement of our house, and our job is to get a wire up into a wall cavity there where Mike is on the first floor. And what I've done is I picked a convenient location under the bottom plate to drill up. And Mike is going to try to find where my fish tape is. Now, since I can't be, exactly sure which cavity he's going to poke this up in, and if I'm on the first floor, I'm going to use a little known trick for locating, like metal drill bits, and in this case, a metal fish tape in the wall. The trick is to attach one of our standard cable tone generators at one end, and then I'll use this pickup sensor to find that wire in the wall. Okay, Mike, it's ready. Okay, Grayson has hooked up the
the tone sensor, and I'm going to kind of just sweep across the wall. You can see how the signal gets much stronger as I get closer and as I move away. So I've got a real good spot to know where I need to drill my hole in that wall cavity so I can attach the pull cord.
This time I'm in the attic on top of the second floor, and our job is to get a wire down one of the wall cavities. I managed to get out and get a hole through the top plate, and I fished this fish rod in, and the fish rod's got a magnet on the end, and I'm going to get it down so Mike can locate it here. Okay, Mike, it's in the wall.
Okay, I can locate the end of this rod just simply using an inexpensive compass. I just sweep the compass across the wall cavity where I think the rod will be until I see the compass swing toward the wall. Since I think it's near the bottom of the wall cavity, I'll start about here and kind of work my way across back and forth until I find it. I'm going to start a little high, move down until I start, big swing right here, and I can check that's right about where it is. Now I know where to make my hole in the wall. Definitely one of the most must-have tools is a set of these spring steel wire bits. We use them to locate reference points when we're trying to run cable between floors or rooms. Let's say, for example, you needed to drill down into this wall cavity from the attic. You normally do this by measuring over from the wall. But you know, that's very hard to do that same measurement up in the attic. But by using these, using the wire is a tiny but long drill bit, you can go right through the ceiling into the attic. You or another installer simply locates the wire, and then they measure over from the wall cavity and drill down. So what I'm going to do is I've pre-cut some of these that are about the right length, if you see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a tip off of it just to show you. Because the important thing to remember is you need a sharp tip point. So we're going to cut this. So that gets me a good sharp point to put in my bit. Now, I've got a drill here, and I'm going to go up through this plexiglass. First thing I'm going to do is measure out from the wall. I'm going to guess it's about 2 to 3 inches. And I'm going to set this up. Now, you'll need to hold it with your hand before drilling because this is, this is a little flexible. So hang on. Don't press too hard on the drill. So let's see if we can get her going there. There we go. Going to disconnect the drill, leaving this small wire drill bit. Going to push all the way up so the installer can find it. Get a measurement here. Let's see. That's going to be about 3 inches from where the sheetrock would be. Grayson, I'm about 3 inches from where the sheetrock would be. Can you find it?
I got it. I see it.
It works great to use these wire bits through floorboards and into the basement as well. The bit can easily go through wood or plaster, and it leaves such a tiny hole when it's removed that it'll just never be noticed. Let's cover tools you use to make holes in existing walls for, mounting our rough-in boxes, outlets, and so on. Now, to do this, we'll be covering these routers, some saws, and of course, sledgehammers.
Whoa, sledgehammers?
Well, sure, they're great for making holes quickly. And I like this 10-pound sledge the best. You can get a good swing on this thing.
Jesus, Mike.
And they're really good for lath and plaster now.
Yeah, well, that's for remodeling, Mike. Now, this is retrofit. Remodeling is for this old house.
Oh.
Another show.
I still like it.
Well, we'll let you use it on that show. Now, you'll always need to make new openings for outlets, speakers, and even distribution panels. The best tool to use depends on the wall or ceiling material.
But regardless of the tool you use, you must always be conscious of not damaging the outside wall surface, such as paint and especially wallpaper. Now, the easiest way to prevent damage of some sort is to use some sort of template that covers the area around the hole. Always use something between your cutting tool and the wall surface.
Right. Now, the template can be as simple as a piece of cardboard like Mike has, or carefully taped to the wall, or something like this aluminum template that's cut to the size of a standard single gang outlet opening. Now, when making openings that are large in a wall, it requires some care. Now, the first thing you want to do is to find your approximate location that you're going to use with something like your stud finder. Then, it's good practice, if you have any doubt what's in the wall, to make a small exploratory hole. I'm going to start right here. Okay. Then you can use a stiff wire like this to feel inside for any surprises, such as pipes or ductwork or something else that got there before you. Or you can use this fiber optic scope that we showed you earlier, since it'll fit inside a real small hole. Now, a cool trick to center the opening between the studs is to make a small hole near the center. Then, using this U-shaped piece of wire like this, with sides the same length, insert one end into the wall opening. Then, once you've got it inside, rock the wire back and forth until it hits something on each side. Then mark the ends ends of the wire on the outside. Okay? Now, the inside's hitting the studs, and I mark it on the outside. This will clearly define the space behind the wall cover.
In new homes with sheetrock wall covering, this handheld sheetrock saw will work well if you're careful. Now, it can be punched through the sheetrock like this. If you want, you can cut you some little previous small holes to get you started. I kind of like to do it this way. So you just take this, following your template, Now, cutting any kind of wall material will always make a mess, and what you want to do is always clean as you go. So be sure and vacuum up. Now, if you've got a ceiling outlet that you're cutting out, be sure to put a drop cloth and then vacuum up all the dust and insulation. If you don't clean up, you're going to end up tracking this all the way out through the house. So I like to clean up really well. Well, once you have your outlet hole cut, you'll need a retrofit mounting ring to hold the outlet hardware. And these, of course, they come in 1 gang, 2 gang, and they have a clamp that secures them to the opening. You can kind of see this clamp here with the set screw that'll come over and hits the stop, and of course it pulls up against the sheetrock. Let me demonstrate by putting one in. We'll turn the tabs to the center so we can get through our hole. We get in here. And that's all we have to do. We take our electric screwdriver, put it right up here. There we go. And we just screw that down tight. And we'll do the same on the bottom. Now that's pulling right up against that sheetrock to hold it securely into place. As you can see, these can easily be removed by unscrewing if you need to.
Cutting a hole in lath and plaster is more difficult. First, the material is much harder than wallboard. And second, cutting through with a saw will invariably break the plaster. Now, as soon as you start cutting through one of the lath boards, particularly with an electric saw, it'll start vibrating and cause cracks to develop around the cutout as well as at the studs. Now, the best way to make cuts in lath and similar plaster material is with a cutout tool such as this. Now, these tools are also perfect for making cutouts for outlets in ceramic tile, like in baths and kitchens, in Formica, or other wall boards. Now, this RotoZip tool comes with a circle cutting attachment, which we'll demonstrate a little later to make speaker openings. Now, these cutout tools are used like a router. You can make a pilot hole to get started, or you can work the bit in at an angle to get it started to making the cut. Hold the tool firmly to guide the bit inside the template. Now, this technique will make a relatively smooth hole without vibrating the boards and keeping the outer plaster intact. And remember, always clean up as you go. Last but most important, we need to cover safety equipment. Now, these items are also must-haves. Behold the well-dressed retrofit installer ready for a hard day in a hazardous environment. How you doing in there, Mike?
I feel like I'm going to work in a nuclear reactor.
He's a little overdressed for this particular job. Now, the hard hat is an absolute must for working in attics and crawl spaces. The glasses must be worn anytime you're working with power tools, and they're also valuable in attics as well as the mask. The mask is a definite must-have in working in attics because the insulation and the old dust in attic spaces can be disastrous to the retrofitter's lungs. Now, the coveralls are not required, but they're going to make your life in attics and crawl space much easier, especially for your wife. Now, this Ralph the Retrofitter Lauren Original here can be purchased in quantity at any safety supply store. The gloves, as you see, should be worn in attics and crawl spaces, particularly when you have to use your hands and feet or move insulation around. And finally, the knee pads, while not required, are going to make your life a lot less painful in crawl spaces. Now, it's been our experience, especially in the jobs you'll see in Part 3, that one of the biggest problems of the retrofit is simply tool management. Now, I estimate that 25% of an installer's time is used nothing more than to find and retrieve tools left in attics, crawl spaces, on the truck, or wherever the installer isn't.
Boy, that's true.
Practice tool management. Keep the tools in a central location. Now, always return all the tools used to that location. Always check an area when you leave for tools that you've left behind.
Now, wearing a regular tool belt for retrofit is usually not practical, Grayson, but you should at least have a little small tool pouch.
Sure.
So you'll always have a key set of small tools that you need to carry. Let me give you an example here. We've got wire cutters I'd always carry.
Okay.
Label marker tape with, of course, a marking pen.
To get your cables labeled.
Exactly. I got electrical tape, and then some good large size cable cutters.
Not the dikes.
No, not the dikes. And I always carry some pull wire. I mean, this is good stuff. That's the old weed whacker wire we were showing you earlier. And a flashlight, an Allen wrench, to set those extensions that we had on the fiberglass poles, small knife, and of course, a good two-way radio.
Right. Now, these family band radios, as they're called, have excellent range and are low cost and on my list of must-haves for any 2 or more man retrofit job. Get the headset if you can, so you'll have both hands free.
I know we've shown you a lot of tools and gadgets, but just don't get the idea that you need every one of these tools to do retrofit. Everybody has their own set, and you can get by with a lot less than what we're showing you.
Right. Now, tools are designed to save you time and money, as well as make the job more enjoyable. You've got to try them out to find out what tools work best for you.